And Dryden, you have on your lapel, for those seeing on YouTube, I guess accommodation. What is that?
That's the Bronze Star.
That's the Bronze
That's
Star.
the Bronze Star.
Can you describe why you
that
received
was
the Bronze Star?
I was the psychological warfare officer for 1st Armored Division during Desert Storm.
Okay.
So all the leaflets and loudspeakers and all those things that if you remember the Iraqi army surrendering, that was our campaign, and I was far forward on the ground with that. And so that's sometimes Bronze Stars and things for valor you get for being in the wrong darn place at the wrong darn time.
Yep.
How dangerous is the world today? I mean, when you see what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Ukraine, and the alliances that are being made among our enemies, how dangerous is it?
I think it's probably more dangerous now than it's been in a long time. And part of this is a threat from what we call asymmetric warfare. You have, small groups of people can create a tremendous amount of chaos and force a great deal of damage. I mean, if you take a look at just what happened in Israel in the Gaza conflict, you have these circumstances where the rockets that are being fired by Hamas, they cost about $800 a piece. Iron Dome is $50,000 a round. And you have these tremendous, while it's asymmetric, in other words, the sides are not balanced in their ability to fight. It's not a conventional type war. But you have this situation where civilians on both sides are trapped between these two warring factions. You see it in Ukraine, Russia, you see it there. And I think the world is a little less safe than it used to be, because you can have these regional flare-ups become quite devastating. But from a market standpoint, I get this question a lot. As long as the circumstance in Israel it doesn't become a wider thing, generally it's not a market devastating moment. If you go back to the last 13 conflicts that we've had, there's about a 45-day round trip, about 14 days down to the market and about 26 7 days back. So from a market standpoint, it's just creates some volatility. From a human standpoint,
right?
It's quite tragic.
So how do you what's your view of these markets here today? Because you have to take into Federal Reserve.
Oil. It kind of has made the round trip that you've just described, right? Because we initially saw a big pop, obviously, when there is a hot war in the Middle East. That gets people's attention in the oil markets, but yesterday we hit $72 a barrel.
Right. And what's interesting, this is not 1974, right? So people were extrapolating, oh my gosh, we shut down the Straits of Hormuz, or you had the tanker wars that we had back in the 80s, and the world's not the same. The United States is the largest producer of oil now.
Yeah.
Right? We need about 20 million barrels a day. We produce 12. We get the rest of it from other places. Most of it comes from Canada. We only get about 11% out of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. So if this wider conflict really affected global oil supply, the United States is not going to be nearly as affected as we were in the past. And it's going to hurt India and China and Europe a bit, but not quite the United States as much. The other thing is that this flexibility that we have with Iran's one of the warring factions, if you will, right? And they need to produce a lot of oil to be able to fund their mischief.
Yep.
And so you have the parties to conflict needing the cash to continue the conflict. Same thing with Russia, right? Russia's got a war going on.
Yep.
So this is one reason why you don't see this constriction in oil prices. Two of the big players have got to make a lot of money to fund their wars. So, it's a fungible global commodity.
So, how does this? It seems like maybe on a geopolitical front, another big thing was just a couple of days ago in San Francisco, just getting President Biden and President Xi together. That maybe takes down the risk of the world geopolitical a little bit, and that might be a good thing, hopefully.
I think it does. And one of the things, I mentioned this asymmetric warfare situation. I think China had to pay really close attention to a Harpoon missile that cost $1.3 million, taking out a $3.2 billion Russian capital ship.
Yep.
So if they were going to try to take on Taiwan, they could do it, but it would be massively expensive.
Yep.
It would be massively expensive. And you also see the thing in Ukraine, a Javelin missile that you and I pay $175,000 for, right? takes out a Russian tank that costs $3.2 million. I kind of like that math.
Yep.
I kind of like that math. So I think when you think of people stepping back from the abyss, looking at how destructive is war and what does it do to the economies, what does it do to humankind, but more importantly, it's very expensive. And when you have an asymmetric war, the side that's got the most expensive weapons, it costs them a lot.
So, all right, let's step back from the geopolitics a little bit. I mean, just day to day, you run money here for your clients. What are you telling them about kind of these markets, the overall geopolitics, the Federal Reserve? How do you put it all together for them?
Sure. Well, first of all, don't panic.
Okay.
That's the first thing. These geopolitical events take, again, it's about a 45-day round trip. Secondly, the big thing that is still that we're living with is this is the post-COVID event, right? We put $5.4 trillion into the economy in 1 year. That's more money than we spent in all of World War II.
Insane.
And so when you're looking at the knock-on effects of that, but it's all still fairly stimulative. So we have more people working, making more money than ever before. We got almost 5.4 million people working now, more than we had at the peak right before the pandemic.
Yep.
And more people making more money than ever before. Labor productivity is at an all-time high. You have this underlying drive of the economy, 1.4, 1.5 jobs for every person looking. So I don't see a recession. I see things slowing down a little bit. It's like when you drive a car at 90 miles an hour for a while. Not that anybody's ever done that, but yeah, you drive it at 90 for a while. You slow down to 50. You feel like you're going really, really slow, but you're still moving 10 times faster than you can walk. Yeah. And so I think that's what we're going to see. So what we're telling clients is, and what we did this part of the year is the Magnificent Seven kind of peaked the market early. We said, let's look at the 493.
Okay.
Now that interest rates have peaked, we think, CFOs can predict margins. They know cost of capital. So you're going to continue to see these earnings beats for the next